President Alejandro Toledo is among those who support reforming the current credit rating system, suggesting many countries in Latin America and Africa are being left out of the credit market because of their poor credit ratings.
If we don't diversify the composition of economic growth, soon it will get worse. However, I'm hopeful that initiatives such as this could lead us all together to an improving world for everyone.
Proponents of changes to the global credit rating system note it was the US-based ratings agencies who were, in part, responsible for the start of the global financial crisis in the first place. Collateralized debt of mortgage holders in the United States, rated as AAA or extremely safe by the credit ratings agencies, eventually failed, creating the domino effect which started the worst financial crisis the world has seen since Great Depression in the late 1920s. For CRI, I'm Victor Ning.
Suspicions are growing that someone may be leaking the names and personal information of people with HIV/AIDS in China. This followed revelations of a new phone scam targeting people with the virus. The Chinese Center for Disease Control and Prevention said on Monday that at least 388 Chinese citizens living with HIV have fallen victim to the scam. It said scammers call people infected with the virus, claiming they're collecting fees related to government subsidies for the HIV infected. The center has asked police to investigate, noting it's illegal for organizations or individuals to disclose names or other personal information of people infected with HIV unless given consent. The World Health Organization and the Joint United Nations Program on HIV/AIDS have also condemned the leak as a violation of the fundamental right to patient confidentiality. Official data show 810,000 people in China had been diagnosed with HIV/AIDS by the end of 2013, and over 100,000 new cases reported in 2014, according to data released in last year. China has announced its largest-ever Olympic delegation to be sent overseas. It will send 416 athletes, including 35 Olympic champions, to the upcoming Rio Olympic Games. CRI's Yuan Huai reports.
160 men's athletes and 256 women will compete, representing China at the Games, starting from August the 5th. Among them, 35 are Olympic champions, including 27 from London Olympics. 14-year-old swimmer Ai Yan Han, who will compete in the women's freestyle events, is the youngest member of the Chinese contingent, while 38-year-old shooter Chen Jun will be the oldest. This will be the fourth Olympic trip for the Beijing Olympics shooting champion.
Every time it's new to me. I have lots of dreams and expectations. That's why we have kept on competing.
China is expecting a haul of gold medals from traditionally strong sports, such as table tennis, badminton, gymnastics, weightlifting, shooting, and diving. However, swimming and athletics are attracting just as much attention as China is on the rise in these two sports. Olympic and World Freestyle champion Sun Yang is looking to defend his 1500-meter title in Rio, while sharing his limelight is new sensation Ning Zetao, who became the first Asian man ever to win the 100-meter freestyle at the World Championships last year.
I feel I'm in good shape now. I've been making final preparations.
China is also hoping to make an impression in track and field events. Feng Shuyong is head coach of the national athletic team.
So far, our athletes have been able to rank in the world's top 3 for events like race walking, shot put, and long jump.
Injuries, however, caused several noticeable absences in the roster. 5-time Olympic gymnastic champion Zhou Kai was dropped as he was struggling with recurring injuries, while women's gymnast Yao Jianan has not recovered from shoulder surgery. Weightlifter Liao Hui announced his retirement after he suffered a knee injury in training last month. Chinese sports authorities have made a point of stating their zero tolerance for doping policy. For CRI, this is Liu Yuanhui.
South Korea's Yonhap news agency has reported that the North Korean side has fired 3 ballistic missiles earlier this morning. No more details are available on the launch as of yet. The launch comes just one day after South Korean authorities suggested that North Korea could be preparing for another nuclear test. The North had warned of physical measures against the deployment of the U.S. THAAD anti-missile system if it's installed in the south. Former Turkish Air Force Commander General Akin Öztürk has confessed to planning the foiled coup. A total of 103 generals and admirals have been detained for questioning across Turkey over the failed coup. The country's state news agency Anadolu reports that 41 of them have been jailed pending trial. Meanwhile, the Turkish authorities have launched an investigation into the coup-related Cerrik air base in the country's southeastern province of Adana. Accompanied by police teams, 2 deputy chief prosecutors and 5 chief public prosecutors from Adana started to search the airbase, where a tanker plane had taken off to refuel at least one F-16 jet piloted by the coup soldiers. The base, which houses nuclear weapons, is currently used by U.S.-led NATO forces to strike ISIS targets. A total of 7,500 people have been detained following a failed coup attempt in Turkey. According to Prime Minister Binali Yildirim, the arrested include thousands of soldiers and hundreds of judges, prosecutors, police officers, as well as civilians. Over 100 generals and admirals have been rounded up in investigations as the crackdown continues on suspected coup plotters across Turkey. Prime Minister Yildirim says some military equipment is still missing.
Envanterde ilk anlarda
In the first movement of the plotted coup, pieces of military equipment went missing from our inventory, but now those losses are under control. We have taken precautions against these pieces of military equipment.
The massive crackdown came in the wake of a failed coup attempt against President Recep Tayyip Erdogan that began last Friday and was crushed the next day. A total of 230 people were killed in the coup attempt, including 60 police officers. According to media reports, the Turkish parliament in Ankara was briefly evacuated on Monday afternoon due to the threat of an attack, which turned out to be a false alarm. The U.S. is prepared to cooperate with Turkey on the extradition of Fethullah Gulen. U.S. Ambassador to Ankara John Bass said the United States is willing to provide assistance to Turkish authorities conducting their investigation into the coup attempt. Meanwhile, the White House urged the Turkish government to exercise restraint and act within the rule of law during their investigation. U.S. Press Secretary Josh Earnest said the United States had not received any extradition request from the cleric, but that it would evaluate one if it arrived under a 30-year-old extradition treaty.
We don't often discuss those kinds of requests publicly, but at this point, we have not received an extradition request from the Turkish government as it relates to Mr. Gulen. If and when we receive a request, we will evaluate that request based on the extradition treaty that was signed by the United States and Turkey more than 30 years ago. There is a clear, well-established, mutually agreed-upon process for considering those kinds of requests.
Earlier, some senior Turkish officials, including the country's prime minister, have alleged that the coup was inspired by cleric Fethullah Gulen and have demanded that the U.S. turn him over. The European Union has voiced disagreement against Turkey's attempts to reintroduce the death penalty, saying the move will consequently end European Union accession negotiations. Federica Mogherini is EU's foreign policy chief.
No country can become a EU member state if it introduces that penalty. That is very clear in our acquis, as we call it. So this is for sure. The other points I would like to stress, even if this is not the institution I am entitled to speak for, but Turkey is an important part of the Council of Europe, is an important member of the Council of Europe, and as such is bound by the European Convention of Human Rights that is very clear on that penalty.
German government spokesman Stefan Seibert, as well as Austrian Chancellor Christian Kern, were also among those who expressed concern over reports that Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan is considering reinstating the death penalty following the failed military coup. Turkey abolished the practice in 2002 as part of its pursuit of EU membership. U.S. officials and federal authorities are now working to help restore public trust in police. This comes following a series of violent incidents targeting police officers. CRI's Shi Cheng reports.
U.S. Attorney General Loretta Lynch strongly condemned the weekend killing of 3 Louisiana police officers in Baton Rouge, saying FBI agents and other federal agencies were in the city to help local authorities.
We are determined to do everything that we can to bridge these divides, to heal the rifts and to restore trust. But most of all, now is the time to ensure that every American, everyone, under the sheltering arm of our Constitution, feels respected, feels supported, feels safe. Everyone. No matter the color of their skin, the color of their uniform, where they live, where they work. This is all our house. This is all our house, and we have to protect it.
Former Attorney General Eric Holder says the events underscore the need to control American access to deadly firearms.
It is time. It is far past time for those of you in law enforcement to join with other responsible Americans and take on the mindless, industry-driven gun lobby that values an illogical individual ability to possess military-grade weapons more than the lives of the American people in general and our law enforcement personnel in particular. Speak up!
It was not immediately clear whether there was a link between the Baton Rouge attack and arrest over the police killings of 2 black men in questionable circumstances this month. Louisiana State Police Colonel Mike Edmondson said the deceased police officers were intentionally targeted and assassinated.
It was a calculated act against those who work to protect this community every single day. That indeed, ladies and gentlemen, is the shooter. That is engagement. You'll see that his movements are articulated, they're intact, they're combative, and they're real.
Louisiana Governor John Bell Edwards described the act as diabolical.
There is nothing more fundamentally important than maintaining law and order so that people can have good quality lives. And that's what he attacked, the very fabric of our society. And that is not what justice looks like. It's not justice for Alton Sterling or anything else that's ever happened in this state or anywhere else. It's not justice for anybody. It's certainly not constructive. It's just pure, unadulterated evil.
The Baton Rouge attacker, identified as 29-year-old U.S. Marine Corps veteran Gavin Long from Kansas City, has been shot dead in a gunfight with police on Sunday. Early on July the 5th, a black man, Alton Sterling, was fatally shot dead outside a convenience store in the same city. The incident, along with another killing of a black man in Minnesota, triggered protests against police violence. One of the protests in Dallas, Texas, saw 5 local police officers shot dead by a former U.S. Army Reserve soldier. For CRI, I'm Xie Cheng.
The investigation into the truck attack in the French city of Nice has shown the attacker's recent interest in radical jihadist movements. However, no evidence has been found of his links with the Islamic State terror group. Paris prosecutor Francois Molin said the attack was premeditated, an action planned days before, and that photos and videos linked to radical jihadist movements had been found on his phone and computer.
L'exploitation d'un ordinateur trouvé à son domicile.
The search of a computer found in his house indicates that several internet searches were carried out from July 1st, 2016 on festivities organized on the Promenade des Anglais and on the fireworks in Nice, and on videos of deadly vehicle accidents with research, and I quote, horrific deadly accidents, terrible deadly accidents, and also shocking video, not for the faint-hearted.
The French Tunisian Mohamed Boulel also sought to raise money through a bank loan, which was denied. He did manage to withdraw cash and sell his car. He paid over $1,700 for the truck hire and was caught twice on surveillance cameras rehearsing the journey he would take during the attack. Witness statements painted Boulel as far removed from religion. He drank alcohol, ate pork, and took drugs. Boulel drove a heavy truck into the crowd celebrating Bastille Day on July 14th in Nice, leaving 84 people dead and 300 others wounded. The IS-linked news agency Amaq has claimed responsibility for that attack. The president of Kazakhstan, Nursultan Nazarbayev, has called the deadly shooting in Almaty an act of terrorism. He has ordered an investigation into the incident and called for aid to be provided to families of victims.
We all know that today in Almaty, a terrorist act took place that unfortunately again led to casualties. I express condolences to the relatives of the killed police officers. I order the local authorities, the respective institutions to take every measure in order to support the families and to help according to the law and to do all that is necessary.
The shooter on Monday killed at least 5 people, including 4 policemen and 1 civilian, and also injured 7 others. The latest reports say 2 suspects have been detained. Probes have found that 1 gunman who had served time for robbery and illegal arms possession was connected to the Salafist movement, an ultra-conservative school of Islam. The shooting came 1 month after unidentified assailants staged an armed robbery in the western Kazakh city, Aktobe, leaving 3 military officers and 5 civilians dead. Let's go now to weather. In Beijing, the nation's capital, will have thunder showers today with a high of 26 and a low of 22 degrees Celsius. Shanghai, thunderstorms with a high of 34 and a low of 28. Chongqing will have heavy rain with a high of 30 and a low of 26. Elsewhere in the world, staying here in Asia, Islamabad will be cloudy with a high of 33. Kabul, cloudy with a high of 31. New York, cloudy with a high of 33 degrees. Washington, D.C., cloudy with a high of 34. And in Rio de Janeiro, the site of the next Olympics, we have cloudy weather with a high of 21 degrees centigrade. You're tuned to the Beijing Hour here on CRI. It's time to take a quick break. After the break, coming up very soon, we'll have more for you. In business, Chinese company acquires the Opera search engine. And in sports, 6 cyclists injured during the tour of Qinghai Lake. That's more, and there's more to come. Stay tuned.
China Plus News, your very own source for information on China. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/China Plus News or like us on Facebook. Information on China right at your fingertips.
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you by China Radio International.
Linda Mills back with you here this Tuesday, July 19th, 2016. Welcome to the Beijing Hour, broadcasting from the Chinese capital. Coming up now, in business, Chinese company acquires the Opera search engine. In sports, 6 cyclists injured during the tour of Qinghai Lake. And in entertainment, the Game of Thrones premiere is revealed. All of that and more to come. Stay tuned. The commander of the Chinese PLA Army has stressed China and the U.S. must play key roles in ensuring peace and stability in the South China Sea. Wu Shengli has told his U.S. counterpart, Admiral John Richardson, that cooperation between the 2 countries' navies is the only correct option. The commander reiterated that China will never sacrifice its territorial sovereignty and also defended the country's development of the Nansha Islands. He also made clear that the country will never give up efforts to solve the South China Sea issue peacefully, but warned that attempts to force China to give in through flexing military muscles will only have opposite effects. South Korea's Yonhap news agency has reported that North has fired 3 ballistic missiles earlier this morning. No more details are available on the launch as of yet. The launch comes just 1 day after South Korean authorities suggested that North Korea could be preparing for another nuclear test. The North had warned of physical measures against the deployment of the U.S. THAAD anti-missile system if it is installed in the South. 8 Turkish military personnel who landed in Greece on Saturday appeared in court in northern Greece on Monday. They face charges of illegally entering the country after they fled to Greece in a helicopter during the military coup in Turkey. The local court has granted a 3-day postponement in the trial until Thursday. The 8, identified as 2 majors, 4 captains, and 2 master sergeants, are requesting asylum in Greece. Turkey is seeking their return, though their lawyers said they knew nothing about the coup and that the helicopter had been used to transport wounded. The Greek government said their asylum application will be examined under international law, but that the fact that they are suspected of being party to the attempted coup in their country will be taken into account. China's Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Civil Affairs allocated 75 billion yuan, or over $11 million to Typhoon Nepartak hit Fujian province. The fund will be used for relocation, transitional financial support for locals, post-disaster reconstruction, and other projects. The fund also includes compensation for family members of those killed by the typhoon. A total of 3,000 blankets, 50 generators, 2,000 emergency lamps, 900 folding beds have all been allocated to residents. Over 34,000 people have been relocated to some 570 shelters. Local relevant departments have already allocated 68 million yuan in emergency funds for disaster relief. A vaccine to protect against cervical cancer will be available in the Chinese mainland early next year. Its maker, the UK-based GlaxoSmithKline, said the vaccine Cerrik has been licensed by China Food and Drug Administration for use in girls and women aged between 9 and 25. Cervical cancer is the second most common cancer affecting Chinese women aged 15 to 44. Official figures show there are 130,000 new cases in China every year, accounting for more than 28% of the world total. Turning to business news, we'll start by taking a look at the closing numbers in North America and Europe. For that, we are joined by Ding Hung.